So today we'll be seeing Canto 3, Chapter 10 overview. So we all know that there are many sections in the Canto 3. We are currently seeing the section of creation, which involves two aspects, which is primary creation and secondary creation. So we have been speaking specifically about creation from Chapter 5. In Chapter 10, question about secondary creation is asked, but the topic will begin after 2 chapters, ideally speaking. So just the background of secondary creation and in general creation is going to be given in chapter 10, and about the time factor in chapter 11, and then actually secondary creation will start, the topic will start in chapter 12. So we'll see how the flow goes today. So far in the Canto 3, Vidura met Maitreya, but how did he meet Maitreya? What led him to meet Maitreya was explained by Shukadeva Goswami in the first 4 chapters, that how Vidura first went and met Uddhava, and then Uddhava told him to meet Maitreya. When he met Maitreya, Vidura asked first about creation of the universe. So Maitreya began from chapter 5 when they met about to speak about primary creation, and then he gradually has been speaking about that creation topic related to other doubts that Vidura had asked. And finally, we saw how Brahma manifested from Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and then he offered prayers last week in chapter 9. And this week, we will see after Brahma's prayers are finished, what did Vidura inquire from Maitreya. So that's how the chapter 10 is beginning. The name of the chapter is Divisions of the Creation. Why it is specifically named in this way is, in this chapter we will see how Brahma divides the universe, and also we will see details about how many types of primary creation, how many types of secondary creation, all these things exist. So that is why the title of the chapter is Divisions of the Creation, either the physical division or the classification in terms of different species or different elements, how they manifest. So in this way there are various divisions that we will see in this chapter. So this chapter has in total 30 verses. It's an interesting chapter. It's a mix of lessons plus a lot of facts also in this chapter. So these 30 verses are divided. The first 3 verses actually Vidura is asking questions about Brahma creation, and from verse 4 to 9, Brahma actually divides the lotus into 14 planetary systems, and then from verses 11 to 13, in short, Maitreya Muni describes about time, because Vidura had asked about time factor. So he is in the flow of the topic, he is inserting a little bit about the time factor, but he is going to dedicate the whole chapter 11 for this topic, the time factor. And again, he is coming back to the topic. Maitreya Rishi speaks about the 10 divisions of creations. So how there are different kinds of creations or types of creations within the primary and secondary creation also, or details to the creation. So that we will see from verses 14 to 30. So here is Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura is actually inquiring about the secondary creation in this chapter. Secondary creation means what we will see. And Maitreya begins to describe the details of mass creation and characteristics of time. So in the very first verse, what is Vidura doing is, Vidura has been hearing about, Vidura has been hearing about Brahma's prayers. And then Brahma prayed to Lord Vishnu, "Oh, my dear Lord, please help me, empower me to have the ability to create this universe." So now Vidura is saying, okay, he prayed for empowerment. So after he was blessed by the Supreme Lord, what did he do? And specifically, he is asking, how did Brahma create the bodies of living entities from his own body and mind? Kindly answer. So this is the question of Vidura. How did Brahma create from his body the different living entities, body and as well as mind? So there are Manasaputras, that means Brahma has creations coming from his mind as well as from his body. So which is pretty extraordinary. So how many of us know anyone creating anything from mind, especially progeny? It would be like the world would be like probably so much populated if we had the ability to create from mind. So now Maitreya is going to begin to explain what are the details of this. And before that, I thought instead of just going with the flow, let me give a background of the different kinds of creations and the types of secondary creation so that we can understand the concept better. So we all know the creation of the universe has two uh, major sections. One is called as primary creation, the other is called the secondary creation. So now, what is called as primary creation? I have like we have seen it earlier also. So if anybody would like to say, they can try.
The Purusha avatars, how they create.
Yeah, to some extent, you can say Purusha Avatara's creation is primary creation. Yes, it's an interesting way to look at it like that. True. Yeah, that's true. And but in terms of details, if you want to go more like in terms of what gets created, the universe, the physics, like the five elements, the mind, intelligence, false ego, the sense devatas, the primary sense devatas, and all these different tanmatra, the subtle sense objects, these are the things which get created in primary creation. As Shuman Prabhu said, from Mahavishnu's body, Pradhana comes, and by his glance it becomes Mahat Tattva, and from Mahat Tattva in the mode of ignorance, we have many things coming out like five elements and the five subtle elements and all these things. So they are all called as primary creation or called as elemental creation. All the basic elements that we need for the universe to come together, for the universe to be created, for the universe to be made, those basic elements are all created first. So that is called as Karana Srishti or primary creation. So this is, and then there is Karya Srishti also. Karana is the elemental creation. Karya Srishti is putting them all together. That also happens in the primary creation. So after the universes get ready, then Garbhodakshay Vishnu enters, and from his lotus, from his navel, lotus comes, and Brahmaji takes birth. And after Brahmaji takes birth, then he does some creation because we all know famous Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. We say these three Guna avatars, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. And we say creation belongs to the profile belongs to Lord Brahma, the maintenance profile belongs to Lord Vishnu, and the destruction portfolio belongs to Lord Shiva. This is a general idea that we all know. So if this creation is done by Purusha avatars, now as Shuman Prabhu clearly said, this primary creation is done by Purusha avatars, then why is Brahma called as creator? Some anyone would like to answer?
Because he takes those elemental ingredients and then creates the world as we see it now. He
True.
takes those building blocks.
Those basic elements, the building blocks, and then create something out of them in details. All the details he fills in. So that is why he is called as secondary creator. Thank you, Madhadev. And also, here you see in the primary creation, the Purusha avatars actually are engaged in creating multivarious universes. From Mahavishnu, millions and unlimited number of universes come, and he expands as Garbhodakshay Vishnu in each and every one of them. So in that way, the creation of Mahavishnu is like pertaining to all the universes. Brahmaji's work is very much related to one universe, only the universe in which he is born into. That is the only sphere he works in, and also he creates as now Mother Gail said, he creates based on what has been given to him already. He is more of a engineer that you hire, and then you supply all the materials to him. You supply the stones, you supply sand, you supply cement, you supply all the products to basic ingredients, and then he creates something out of it. The same way Krishna creates or Mahavishnu creates all the elemental creation, and then Brahmaji takes it and then builds based on those elements. So that is why this creation is called as secondary creation. So this is Visarga, and primary creation is called as Sarga. Because this is Visesha Rupena Sarga. This is a special type of creation, that is why it is called as Visarga. And this Visarga, the secondary creation, has two types. One is called as Naimittika Srishti and Nitya Srishti. Yes, Shuman Prabhu, you wanted to ask the question?
Where are the souls, Prabhu, in all this till now? Where are the souls present?
They are present in with Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Okay.
So they
And
reside with Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
okay. And another quick question, like you were saying, Brahma creates through mind, body, etc. But even the Supreme Lord, I heard like the genitals are there, everything comes from there. So does Brahma also have genitals, and does it come from there or no?
Can you please come again?
I heard like from the Supreme Lord also everything comes from his genitals.
Okay.
But from Brahma also does it come through his genitals or no?
No,
Brahma
no.
has
We
that?
will
Okay, no.
see. We will see how different things come from different parts of his body. That will come in the 12th chapter.
Okay, hi, boss. Thank you,
Okay?
Prabhu.
And so now I was speaking about the secondary creation. There are two types of secondary creation. One is called as Naimittika Srishti and the other one is called as Nitya Srishti. Naimittika means it happens not very frequently. It happens once in a while. It happens regularly but very rarely. Nitya Srishti is the regular thing. It's an everyday affair, you could say. So that is why one is called as Naimittika Srishti, the other one is called as Nitya Srishti. So what is Naimittika and what is Nitya, we will see now. So Naimittika Srishti is something which happens, as I said, in the this is Brahma's daily creation at the beginning of his day. If you see, even in this chapter, we are clearly seeing how Brahmaji is now reawakening from his sleep from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then now uh, he is trying to create. So this particular creation he is doing in the beginning of the day, this is called as Naimittika Srishti, and this is also specifically through his mind and body. So there is some more secondary creation that is going to happen, that is called as Nitya Srishti. The first one is Naimittika Srishti, in which he is dividing the lotus into 14 planetary systems, and then he is creating different suns from mind, and like Manasa Putras, and this is called as he is creating from his body and mind. This is called as Naimittika Srishti, and there is something called as Nitya Srishti. After he creates the Manus and various other people, they create other living entities and other species. That is called as Nitya Srishti. So that they are called Prajapatis, they populate the world, and that thing goes on continuously throughout the day of Brahma. Like today, millions of people are reproducing, millions of living entities are reproducing. Right from plants to human beings, everybody is continuously going through the cycle of reproduction. So that is called as Nitya Srishti. That creation is going to continue on and on until the destruction is going to happen. So that aspect of the creation is called as Nitya Srishti. But Naimittika Srishti is what Brahmaji does in the beginning of his day, like dividing the planets into 14 sections, creating the Manus, creating the Manasaputras like Sanat Kumaras and all these people. So that happens only once in a day of Brahma. And the regular creation, like how people reproducing, that goes on always. That is also secondary creation, but that goes on continuously. That's why it is called as Nitya Srishti. So I hope this one is clear. If anybody has any questions or
When
clarifications, we can take.
all the planets are created every time on every Brahma's day, because I heard only half of them are submerged and rest of them still
Yeah,
stay
the
in
both
position.
both. Your question is, you're saying sometimes we hear that in the partial destruction at the night of Brahma, only up till Swargaloka things are destroyed.
Yeah.
So both the scenarios are presented. Sometimes all of them get destroyed, sometimes not. We are given the scenario of what if everything gets destroyed in this chapter.
Oh, but even everything also gets destroyed sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, that is what is being given here in this commentary. Vishnu Chakravarti says sometimes when Brahmaji himself is like, because he is also sleeping in Vishnu. Sometimes then Vishnu sees, oh, Brahmaji is also sleeping, so then I can just destroy. Sometimes it's not a way always. In general, we will see in the 11th chapter, next chapter, how the the destruction waters come up till Swargaloka, and the fire also comes, and then because of the heat the Maharloka people go to the next loka,
Tapalok. Tapalok.
Janaloka.
Janula. Okay.
Yeah. So they pray from there. So there are certain times when that does not happen, certain times all the three planetary systems are
Are you
also
talking of total annihilation?
no, in the partial
Okay.
destruction also sometimes this happens. That was
Okay.
given in the commentary.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically here in this slide we saw there are two types of creation, one primary, one is secondary. In the secondary creation, it's all from Brahma. What Brahma does in the beginning of the day, his day is called as Naimitika Srishti, and what happens in continuously throughout the day of Brahma is called as Nitya Srishti. So now coming back to this chapter, so we saw Vidura questioned about specifically questioned about Naimittika secondary creation, because Vidura asked how is Brahma producing from his mind and body. So that is before starting the topic. Somehow in like Maitreya's style is, if you ask him a question, he is not jumping right into the answer straight. He gives like an elaborate background. So instead of starting to speak how Brahmaji creates from his body and mind, he is going to say what did Brahmaji do after the prayers were over. He is not jumping straight to how Brahmaji created. He is thinking, oh, there are some more details before that happens, so let me fill in those also. So that's why he begins from what happened after the prayers were over. He is not jumping into the creation straight of the mind and body. So Brahma meditated on the Lord. After that, after Lord Vishnu disappeared, he again meditated for 100 celestial years, because the Lord advised, if you do more penance, with that you will get the knowledge to create. So now he saw both the lotus and the water trembling. And then because Brahma now performed long penance and he received transcendental knowledge, he also acquired the knowledge to create the universe, what to do. So then he gets the power to drink the wind and water completely. He takes away the wind and the water which was causing the destruction. He takes away that completely. Now he could see the lotus spread throughout the universe, and then he contemplates that, let me create this 14 planetary systems in this lotus as it was before the destruction. So the memory is coming to him. Vishnu is inspiring him from his heart. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So Krishna is in everyone's heart. So here in Brahmaji's heart also, he is inspiring him to create the planets how they were existed before the destruction. Yes, Balakrishna Prabhu, I see your hands are raised.
Haribol Garshan Prabhu. So when you say primary creation, we mean Karanodakshai Vishnu, and the secondary creation is Lord Brahma, right? So we are not speaking about Garbhodakshai Vishnu or Shirodakshai Vishnu yet, because Karanodakshai Vishnu is the one who's giving rise to all the planets from his pores.
Yes. There is one small aspect in which Garbhodakshaya Vishnu also involved. The primary creation also has two types. One is called as uh, Karya Srishti, and one is called as Karana Srishti. So Karana Srishti is the elemental creation which Mahavishnu does. That time Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is not even in the picture. So after the Karana Srishti is over, all the elements are created, but they are all floating around. They cannot actually they cannot cohesively come up, work together and create something. So we saw in the previous chapters, Mahavishnu sends forth his cohesive energy, and that energy actually binds everything together. And for 1,000 years, the universe gets cooked, basically gets ready for inhabitation. After that happens, then the Mahavishnu enters as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu into the universe. That is when the universe actually gets life. So I would say he is also involved in the creation in that way. And then from his navel comes Lord Brahma. and he creates the Virat Rupa. And from the Virat Rupa only Brahmaji will be able to acquire all the ingredients for his creation. So in this way, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is very fundamental for all the creation that Brahmaji does. So in that way, he is part of primary creation. Because Brahmaji's creation is included in primary creation. What Brahmaji does is what is secondary creation. And because Garbhodakshaya Vishnu comes, Brahmaji comes from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, we can safely say that Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is also involved partially in the primary creation of the universe.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, bro?
Yes, it does. It does. I'll have to rehear some parts. It becomes a little technical, but I got the gist of it.
Okay. Is there any clarification you want to ask?
No, nothing at this point.
Okay. Shuman, bro, you want to ask something?
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick thought that we hear that Brahma of this universe is a pure devotee of the Lord, right?
Okay.
Then, even having the power, means the position of being Brahma or being the creator, or I mean, all of us are partial creator in our own capacity, and Brahma is, that 78%, that even that desire itself, I mean, it looks like how a devotee can even have the desire to be the creator.
Sorry, bro. Can you come again? I somehow was not getting the question.
Haribol,
Yes,
is
bro.
it clear now?
Yeah. Can you come again?
Yes, so like Brahma of
Mhm.
this planet,
Okay.
I heard is a pure devotee.
Okay.
Then how is that desire for creation there in him?
Because he, as part of service, it is not something he is personally doing. It was an instruction. It is his service.
I mean, rather he might be in the spiritual world, right? But only for this service he is coming from there and doing this.
Somebody has to do. What do you mean by a pure devotee? Okay, bro. I understand. It's just like just not to take the topic too away from the actual.
Okay,
I
okay, Haribol.
think yeah, it's okay. It means that is his service actually. Okay.
Yes, it's okay. You can continue.
So yes, Gail.
You are unmuted. Thank you. You said something about Lord Brahma doing this from memory. Did you say something like that?
Doing it from memory. Yes, because if you see the 7th verse, it clearly says he's thinking, oh, let me do this as they were before the destruction. So Krishna is basically giving him the memory after because he's just rising up from his sleep.
So, okay, so we're talking about what he does on a daily basis then.
Yes, he does this on a daily basis. Assume how difficult his life is.
Okay, because how about when he does it for the first time? That time it cannot be from memory.
Yeah, but this particular instance, they are explaining like what happens in the Vedic literatures is everything is cyclic. Everything is cyclic. Jiva Goswami writes in his one of the Sandarbhas, it says everything is literally cyclic. That's why we are just only presented one of the scenarios because Brahmaji is creating unlimited number of times in so many universes. So we cannot be presented, and the details could be little different every time. So even if you are cooking some particular item, you may be cooking it every day. Still, there could be some differences once in a while when you do. So similarly here also Brahma when he creates, its small details could change. In one Purana you will say this particular entity is coming from Brahma's this part of the body. In another Purana, you will see that it's coming from another part. So then people create a big debate and say whether it came from here or how can it come from here. No, it's just probably mentioning different accounts of Brahma's creation. And some details can be created. If he can create from his left hand, why cannot he can create the same thing from his ears? Who creates anything from their ears or left hand anyway? If you are anyway up to accepting that he can create from his left hand, well, as well accept that he can create the same thing from his right ear also. So the question is, because it's cyclic, the Vedic scriptures give one of the instances, and details may change in different cycles, but the essential elements remain the same.
The scriptures also give the details of how things happen the very first time, because I'm just thinking about what I thought was the first time when he had to go into deep meditation. He didn't know what was what. He was in complete darkness, you know? You know what I'm referring to?
So we have that also in other places where it is simple. Krishna inspires him there also. That is how he does this service finally. His intelligence comes from Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Now that he remembers what to do, so then he enters into the wall of the lotus and he divides it into 3 divisions and later into 4 divisions. First he makes the Bhur, Swarga kind of like the main 3 divisions, and then he divides them into the 14 divisions of the planetary systems. And after he creates all the 14 planetary systems, then he also have to create different types of living entities suitable for each of those 14 planetary systems. And he does that because of his causeless devotional service in mature transcendental knowledge. He is completely empowered by the Supreme Lord because of the austerities and penances that he had performed. So after this, we see how Vidura is now asking, please describe the symptoms of eternal time, which is another form of the Lord. So Maitreya is like in a way in a particular direction. He's trying to build the case, and suddenly Vidura is asking, describe the symptoms of eternal time. So Maitreya is not going to completely divert from the topic. In short, he is going to give in few verses 11, 12, and 13. In just 3 verses, he will speak in short about the characteristics of time, and then he will go back to his original line of thought. And once he fully finishes this chapter, before taking the next topic, he will speak about time in detail. So we can see here, Vidura suddenly thinks about time because the creation is involved. So then he thinking, oh, speak about time, but Maitreya is not completely diverting the topic. Rather, he actually takes it up for a while, just 3 verses in brief, and then continues later in the next chapter about time. So when Vidura asked about the characteristics of time, Maitreya explained how this is the source of the interactions of the modes. If you all remember, Pradhana comes from Mahavishnu's body. And when he glances at the pradhana, there are 4 things that enters through that glance. One is the time, the other one is karma, the other one is swabhava, and there is kala, karma, and swabhava, and the subtle bodies of the living entities. That is actually swabhava. I'm forgetting one thing, I'm sorry. So when all these things actually enter, when the time factor enters the pradhana, then the agitation of the modes happen. Because pradhana, what is the definition of pradhana? Pradhan means the modes are in equilibrium state. There is no interaction of the modes. But only when the time factor enters into the pradhana, then there is the interaction of the 3 modes. That is the first characteristics of the time. That this is the source of the interactions of the modes. So that's why we see with time the modes influence changing even in our daily life. Just to not to too much extrapolate the topic, but if you just see for an example, in the early morning, generally it's a certain amount of kind of mode. During the day, midday, it's generally a certain kind of mode. And in the night, it's generally a certain kind of mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. In the morning, goodness, afternoon, passion, and in the night, ignorance. Individually, we may choose to remain in a certain mode, but the overall, the general atmosphere remains in a certain mode. You go to forest, like that. So that is it is the source of interactions of the modes, and it lacks attributes, and hence it is imperceptible. The time factor is not perceptible in a sense. It's perceptible in terms of the effect it has on us. We old, we die, we age. That kind of way we can see the force of time, but we just cannot see itself as a thing. And it is limitless. It means it's without beginning or end. Because the time factor is coming from Krishna, it is eternal. Even though it takes for us at a particular time, it begins and goes back into Vishnu, but it is eternal actually. As an instrumental cause means it's the thing which creates, in the sense which initiates things. As an instrumental cause, it separates the material energy from the Lord. So the Lord does not directly involve with the material energy, rather he sends the time. That is why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Kalosmi, means I am time. And in the form of time, he moves and destroys the world also. So like this is the instrumental cause which separates the material energy from the Lord. The Lord is not directly involved with the world, but he just glances at it and sends the time force. The time force does the rest. That's why the time force is Kalosmi. It is not different from the Supreme Lord. And divided the universe into various planetary systems. We all know that the different planetary systems have different uh, times. The effect of time or the duration of the time is different from for each planet. So that is the way that the different universes are divided, also using the time difference. How we have time zones in the same country or all over the world. So similarly, within the planetary systems, there is also time zones. An unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord. So that is also one impersonal feature of the Lord. An objective manifestation or representative of the Lord. So in this world, time is considered as a representative of the Lord. Causes the universe to appear alike in the present as it was in the past and shall be in the future. Because the time is eternal, in the sense it's going to be cyclic, this universe may get destroyed, but again it will be created. So in this way, this causes the universe to appear not just now, not just in the past, but also in the future. So Maitreya will describe time in detail in the next chapter after he finishes his line of thought in this chapter, and before he discusses the process of creation in summary. So because he began the process of creation, he is going to complete that and then speak about time. So
Sorry,
before
what's the seventh point? Seventh point, can you again explain?
he's a representation of the Lord. He's a representative of the Lord in this universe.
Kalo asked me, that's the example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Means 6 and 7, if you see, there is not so much difference. One explains the nature of that representation, and one says that he is a representation. He is a representative of the Lord, but he is not in a particular form. That's why the 6th is saying he is unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord.
Yes, Prabhu, continue.
So next we will be getting into the verses 14 to 30 is going to speak about different types of destruction and creation. So first, the verse 14 speaks about 3 types of destruction. So why is first destruction given? Because we just spoke about time. So time, the effect of time is destruction. So that's why Maitreya is first describing, like he's coming from his topic towards the original topic. So from Vidura's topic to his topic in a gradual way. So he's first speaking about destruction, saying this time causes destruction. And there are three types of destruction. One is due to time itself, and the other one is due to the nature of the material elements, and the other one is due to material modes. And also there are four types of destruction mentioned in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is Nitya Pralaya, Naimittika Pralaya, Prakritik Pralaya, and Atyantiki Pralaya. So that is also one thing. It is somewhat similar to what is mentioned in this particular chapter also. Let me just refer that. So this is very different, not very different. There are four types of pralaya which is given in the Canto 12, which is called as Nitya Pralaya, which is a constant change, daily death due to karma. The living entities, because of their karma, they may change, they may die, all kinds of living entities. So that is called as Nitya Pralaya. It keeps on happening. That death is like, is just a continuous thing in this world. That's a nature of this world. And there is Naimitiki Pralaya. At the end of Brahma's day, there is one destruction. That is going to happen every Brahma's night. So that is called as Naimitiki Pralaya. It happens regularly, but in a not in a very frequent interval, very rare intervals. And there is Prakritik Pralaya, which is the destruction at the end of Brahma's life. Brahma's 100 years are completed. So that destruction is like a complete destruction. Everything goes back to Mahavishnu. At the end of Brahma's day, when the destruction happens, everything resides in Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. But when Brahma finishes his lifetime, then everything gets destroyed and goes to Mahavishnu's, back to Mahavishnu's belly. And then there is something called as Atyamtika Pralaya. This is the destruction of Ahankar, especially the subtle body, when the living entity gets liberated. So this happens only when the living entity gets liberated. That is why it is called as Atyantika Pralaya. So there are four types of Pralaya which is mentioned in 12th canto. This particular chapter, Maitreya is taking three of those. He did not give the destruction of the Ahankar which happens at the for the individual living entity at the time of liberation. That is not a universal. It's a universal part of the universe, but it is more a personal thing. So he is not including it here. He's speaking about the broader universe. So there is the broader universe in which the daily death happens, or the whole universe gets annihilated. So all those things. He is classifying this based on Kala, Dravya, and Guna. So let's see what is based on Kala. So the types of destruction that happens because of the Kala time factor, which is due to eternal time, is devastation of all universes. Because Brahma, night has come. So there is destruction. Brahma's life has ended. So there is destruction. So that way, those two destructions are based on time. And due to material elements, like by the fire of Sankarshan and the wind that blows and the water that rises, in these various ways, due to material elements, destruction happens. When it is time for end of the day of Brahma, then the water rises. If it is the end of life of Brahma, then Sankarshan gives out the fire. So in this way, there are various ways it can happen. So Sankarshan fire can come during the partial destruction also. So end of Brahma's day. So due to material elements, this particular destruction happens. And Guna is due to one's own actions, due to one's own karma, due to one's own the modes how they interact with the world. So because of that, they develop some karma, and because of that karma, their body may be dying at a particular time. So that is due to guna. So the same three concepts which is mentioned in the Canto 12 is presented in a different way, in a different classification by Maitreya here. His center of classification is Kala, Dravya, and Guna, seeing based on what is the source of this destruction. And the destruction which is mentioned in Canto 12 is what is the duration of it? Is it happening every day? Is it happening once in Brahma's day? Is it happening at the end of Brahma's life? So based on that, they are categorizing it. It's the same things categorized in different ways. So is this clear? Is there any clarifications that we need? Okay, I see somebody's hand raised, but it went away. Okay.
Varshan Prabhu, so in
Yes,
which
Prabhu.
in which destruction does Lord Shiva come into picture?
Okay, the Lord Shiva actually, how he comes into picture is the fire that we say Sankarshan coming from Sankarshan. So Lord Shiva manifests 11 Rudras come. This you can see in the 5th canto. Sankarshan, when he becomes angry, from his anger manifests 11 Rudras. You have seen that picture of the 5th canto. There are like fire, Shiva's dancing around fire sometimes. There are like multiple Shivas standing, and then there is fire all over the place like that. That is the cover of the 5th canto. So those Rudras are actually expansions of Lord Shiva that they come from, that they manifest at that time from Sankarshan's anger. So they are the cause of the fire. That is how Lord Shiva is involved. He is a devotee of Sankarshan.
So Lord Shiva falls in the Dravya destruction.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Actually, if you see, Prabhuji, there is no, it's not that there is one destruction which happens due to time, one destruction that happens due to material elements, and the other happens due to karma. They are all intermingled. If you see, people are dying every day. That's okay. That's also due to little bit about time, but it is predominantly their own karma. But at the end of the day, Brahma's day, also they will be dying. So that will be due to a little bit about time. So all are very interconnected, but there could be some differentiation. But no, it's not that exclusive any one of these categories. For us to die, there is little time factor also involved. We will, all the elements of our body also will disintegrate, but that is not the main cause. We die because of our own karma. Is that kind of makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Our death is given in guna category because that is mainly due to karma, but it is facilitated by kala and dravya. But if you see end of Brahma's life, time is gone, like time is over. So time takes the predominance there, and dravya and guna act to facilitate that destruction. So that's why each category is being classified like that. So the main cause of the destruction is kala or dravya or guna.
Okay. Can we look at this like
Does it make sense?
3 concentric circles? Like Guna is the smallest
Yeah,
circle.
to some extent you would say. Yeah, depending on what kind of destruction you are looking at. So one becomes the main aspect, others become the helping aspects, assistant aspects.
Understood. Thank you.
Mother Gail, you
Hare
have your
Krishna.
hands
Yes,
raised.
yes. Can you repeat the translation for Dravya?
Dravya is material elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, these material elements.
Okay, so when this type of
Hare Krishna.
destruction is caused by fire or water, or right? Is that the
Yeah.
idea?
Yes.
I'm confused about this Dravya section because let me see. In the Kala section,
Okay.
at that time, I mean, aren't those material elements involved?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
what I was saying. They're all
yeah,
interconnected.
interconnected. Yeah. So okay, so
Why
during
the classification is there is, what is the main cause of the destruction?
Okay.
Now you're getting it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Is this Dravya section? I need, okay, you say by the fire of Sankarshan and others, end of Brahma's day. Okay, so in the Dravya section, when you put is the end of Brahma's day, for example, why isn't that under Kala section?
Brahma's end of day, because the main destruction happens because of the fire that is coming from Sankarshan. But and the reason is, and the material elements like water and wind and fire, these are the causes of that destruction. Like these are the main factors which execute that particular destruction of Brahma's day.
Uh-huh.
But when it comes to the end of Brahma's life, actually time factor actually takes away all the other, even the basic elements also. If you see in the partial creation, these elements are all like, these elements are not destroyed. They act as the factors of destruction. But at the end of Brahma's life, even those elements get destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't exist. One after another, the elements themselves get destroyed.
Uh-huh.
So that is why the main carrying out agent is their time.
Oh, okay. And one last question.
Yeah.
I'm having a little trouble making distinction between, under the guna category,
Okay.
the distinction between the destruction that happens due to one's own actions and
Yeah.
the destruction that comes as a result of consumption of one's own body.
Oh, okay. My chart is a little deceiving. I realized while presenting it. It's a translation. The first thing is not a. I just put it somewhat stupidly like this. The due to one's own actions is a translation to the word guna. It's not a type of destruction.
Oh.
I by mistake I put the chart like that. What I meant was guna means due to one's own actions. Kala means due to eternal time. Dravya means due to material elements. The translation of that I have put.
Oh.
Under that, only one category is consumption of the individual bodies.
Okay. So under guna is basically
It's
refers
karma.
to
Karma.
a personal thing, a personal.
Yes, personal karma.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Mm.
Yeah, I have a meeting at 8:15, so let's try how much we can finish. Verses 15 to 17 is going to speak about 6 types of primary creation. I have already explained what is a primary creation, which is like a prakrita sarga. So here I already explained that first slide when I was speaking about the different types of creation, that primary creation, there are certain things that is created, which is the elemental creation. So now we see the first of all, Mahat Tattva comes from whom? Mahat Tattva is the transformation of
Mahavishnu.
Pradhana, that means Mahavishnu, right? So the Pradhana transforms into Mahat Tattva when Mahavishnu glances, and in this Mahat Tattva, the interaction of the modes happen. Guna Vaishamyam, that means interaction of the modes instigated by the Supreme Lord. And after that, from the Mahat Tattva, when it transforms into mode of ignorance predominantly, it becomes the false ego. From that Ahankar false ego comes the material ingredients which are called as Dravya, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether, and also the sense devatas, the mind, knowledge, and the senses, and the material actions like Kriya. So, in the mode of ignorance, material ingredients are created. In the mode of passion, action senses are created. In the mode of ignorance, in the mode of ignorance, Dravya is created. In the mode of goodness, sense devatas, mind, knowledge, acquiring senses, they are created. Let me put it again. The Mahat Tattva is predominantly in the mode of goodness. When it transfers into predominantly of the mode of ignorance, then that Mahat Tattva becomes false ego. And in this false ego, there is little goodness, there is little passion, but a lot of ignorance. And from that lot of ignorance which is there comes the material ingredients, Dravya, 5 elements: air, fire, earth, ether, water, all these 5 elements. That is why we see in this universal creation, these are the majority elements. The living entities are very minuscule parts of the creation. the water element or the earth element or the fire element, they are much more in quantity. And then from the mode of passion, which is little, comes the action acquire senses. Action senses for action means hands, legs, tongue, which is vibrating, all these things. And then there is from the mode of goodness, which is also very little quantity, comes the sense devatas for these primary 10 senses, mind, and the knowledge acquiring senses. That means eyes, ears, nose, skin, and all these are knowledge acquiring senses. So they all get created. That is one kind of creation. And then tanmatra, sense objects, because you create fire, but fire needs form. So that is also created. And from that, actually the Dravya, actually Shaktiman generates 5 gross elements. From this Tanmatra comes the gross elements. And Indriya, senses, so 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 action senses. Deva and the demigod. See, if you see the rest of the 4 is the expansion of Ahankara. Deva, demigods and mind, that is the interaction of Sattva Guna. And tamas or ignorance produced by avidya shakti. This ignorance is not a creation from the Mahatattva, it is from directly from the Supreme Lord, because he sends for this particular avidya shakti, making that living entity get bewildered. So that is like a separate shakti that he sends. So these are the different aspects of the primary creation. One is Mahatattva comes, and then the false ego comes, and Tanmatra, the senses, Deva or the demigods and the mind, and the ignorance potency, the Maya Shakti, the covering Shakti, that with which our mind is like getting illusion, that Shakti is separately created. That is called as Avidya Shakti. That is also separately created for bewildering the living entities. So these are the 6 types of primary creation. And then there are 4 types of secondary creation by Brahma. So who did this creation? This is primarily coming from Mahavishnu.
So
But the
one
next,
small clarification. Where
yes,
is intelligence in all this?
intelligence is supposed to be in the mode of goodness. I may be missed while typing. Sorry, in the mode of passion. I put here material actions, kriya, action and senses under ahankar. That happens in the intelligence happens in the mode of passion.
Okay, Prabhu, continue. Thank you.
Wait. And then on this chart also, I also don't, because there's no lines connected to a few of these boxes, so I don't know where
I
they.
was running out of time. Sorry, I was running out of time.
Yeah. So
I
the
was
ones that
just
don't
trying.
have lines, they should be. How should they be
They're
connected?
exactly under the actual. There, yeah. There is no connection,
Okay.
but I kept them under the box.
Okay. So Dravya.
Thank you. You're all very observant. I'll try to keep it tight.
So Dravya Shaktiman belongs under Tanmatra.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the knowledge senses action
Indriya
begin. Okay,
Nine knowledge
interaction of
senses, action senses goes under senses. Yes.
and interaction of sattva
Some are
guna belongs under.
explanations. Deva and Deva. Some are explanations. Say, for example, Deva, the demigods and mind. How they came when by the interaction of the Sattva Guna, the Devas, the demigods, and the mind is created from the predominantly the Mahatattva, which is predominantly in the mode of ignorance. We saw this in detail in the chapter 5 of Canto 2, and also in chapter Canto 3. Also, we saw in one of the chapters, like 7th, 8th chapters. We saw the creation in detail. 5th chapter we saw 2.5 and 3.5 also. It's just the various sections of the primary creation is put in different classifications here.
Okay.
Okay. So in the last slide, we saw the creation by the Lord or Mahavishnu and Garbhodaksha Vishnu, predominantly Mahavishnu. And in this particular slide, we are going to see now Garbhodaksha Vishnu has entered the universe. Brahmaji is already created. What does Brahmaji do? So these are the 4 types of creations that Brahmaji does as part of his Naimitika Srishti. Naimittika Srishti means once in a day of Brahma, after he gets up, he does these things. Then during the day, he don't need to do all these things. Then whoever he creates more people. That is called as Nitya Srishti, which is also secondary creation. So now we are going to see in this particular slide, what are the 4 types of creations that Brahma does in a bigger category, and that is called as Naimittika Visarga or Naimittika Srishti, which happens in once in a day of Brahma, specifically from his body and mind. So he creates immovable species and lower species of animals, human beings, and demigods. So these are the 4 main categories. He creates demigods, human beings, animals, and then plants and other immovable things. So this is how the major category comes. We begin with the immovable and then we go to the demigods. So for the immovable, the characteristics of that is consciousness is not evident. They are living entities, but their consciousness is sometimes not very evident. It's not so too much perceivable. And the nourishment goes upward. That means they take nourishment from through their legs, through their bottom part of the body. They take nourishment and send it upwards. So that is called as upward nourishment. And they feel pain when cut. And there are unlimited varieties. This is just one they are giving. Like this is the characteristics, is there are unlimited varieties of plants, and in that he is giving 6 types. 6 types is like vanaspatya, means there these are trees. They don't have flowers, but they give fruits. And there are annual plants which come Aushadheha, and Lata is plants that need support, creepers. And Twakshara is hollow plants like bamboo, which has hole in the center. And Viruda, which is stiff trunk, no support is needed for this kind of plants. And Drumas gives fruits through flowers. These plants or trees give fruits, but they need flowers. Through that only they produce fruits. So these are the major categories that are given under the immovable jivas plants. But in them, each one of them, there may be a lot of lot of varieties.
Prabhu,
Ritesh,
does
please tell me.
Prabhu, does this chart covers broadly 8.4 million species of life?
8.4, yes, surely. But
All right.
how much in detail,
Yeah.
how much is that is not given in this chart. This chart's focus is, say for example, if you see in other places, Prabhupada writes in that 84 lakh species also, which species is how much? He gives
Okay.
like numbers for, okay, this many human beings, this many birds, like that he gives. But here the focus is in terms of, I would say, in terms of consciousness. There is
So,
like
so
ants, animals, human beings, demigods, like that they have classified.
So basically, there are 4 major categories like plants, animals, human beings, and demigods in Brahma's creation.
Demigods.
All right, Prabhu.
Yes. That could be totally put together, could be the 84 lakh species.
Yep,
And
Prabhu,
if
yep.
you see how much is there, that how many is, which species is how much, that is a different number, that is a different classification.
All right, Prabhu.
So then the next category is the animals. The characteristics of this is horizontal nourishment. First we saw upward nourishment, this is horizontal nourishment, and we can understand that. And no concept of future deliberation. There is no savings for the future. Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction book writes Atyahara. He gives this example. If you keep a big sack of grains in the marketplace, the sparrows will come, eat, and go. They won't stock a lot, but a human being will pick up the whole bag and keep it for future. So there is no too much concept of future deliberation. There is preoccupied with eating and sleeping, because their activities are based on instincts. Even if they do create a nest or create a dwelling, all these kind of things they do, that is also based on an instinct. How can you think? Not every bird is equipped with creating a particular kind of nest. There are only certain birds which can make certain kind of nest. So it's based on instincts, and they are very much preoccupied with eating, sleeping, mating also. and understands their needs by smell. A lot of these animals understand their needs by smells. They are two-hooved, one-hooved, and birds which land dwelling and aquatic. I could not enter all the details in this small one screen. There are like there are more like examples are given. What are the two hooves? Animals having two hooves, one hooves, five clawed, like that. So that we can see in the directly in the translations. And these four categories occupy 28 types. And then the next category is human beings. So in the human beings, the general characteristics are, it's a downward nourishment. Food is given from the top and the nourishment goes downward. And they are very passionate. The mode of passion is predominant, because in the previous two, mode of ignorance is predominant. This is the first time there is mode of passion predominance, and they're dedicated to work, because passion means work, fruit of work. So that's why they're predominantly always being. Sorry, they are not human being. Most of the times they are human doing. They keep doing something. They have to do something to feel that they are beings. So that is why they are dedicated to work and think themselves happy even in distress. This sounds so judgmental, but this is the truth. Some or other, in any condition of life, we tend to become happy, we tend to get adjusted to it. And it's not just, it's in the creation, we are created like that. Hare Krishna. So think themselves happy even in distress, and there is only one type, human beings. But in this, as Ritesh Prabhu asked, if you go to the 84 lakh species, there are so many species of human beings. But here, they are all considered as human beings. That is what we mean by one type. And demigods, there are 8 types, like Vibhudas, Pitrus, Asuras, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, Bhutas, Pretas, Pishachas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, and others. The thing is, it's predominantly speaking about the demigods, but there are also like demons and yakshas, rakshasas are there. Basically, they are in one sense different from human beings. That is this category. But the main persons of these categories demigods. And other thing is, most of the people, except for the asuras and the yakshas and rakshasas a little bit, they are all like most predominantly in the mode of goodness. But others are like, there are other people who are predominantly in mode of passion and ignorance also here. But the demigods at least are predominantly in the mode of goodness, but they also have passion. Yes, Suman Prabhu.
So two quick questions. One is,
Yes.
where do these yakshas and rakshasas and all those live? I mean, demigods, we know they live in the higher planetary system. Where do they live? That's the first question.
Yes.
So, and
Okay, let me take this first. So if you see an example of yakshas, rakshasas, it's not all of them need to only live in their individual planets, because you see Dhruv Maharaj going and killing the yakshas and rakshasas, or Kuvera is the yaksha, and he also lives in, he has in the Kailash, which is in the heavenly planets, he lives there. And Nala Kuvera Manigriva, they are yakshas actually, because they are sons of Kuvera. So they are playing around Mandakini. So it's like they are there, but there are specific regions sometimes they predominantly rule or possess.
okay.
Within
So
heavenly also.
even in hellish planets, they may be living. Bhoots, Pishachis, and all those.
Yeah, you see Bhutas, Pishachas, and Pretas, they also can be along with Lord Shiva. They are not necessarily only limited to like any particular planet. They are actually also ganas of Lord Shiva. So they may have separate place, but also can be in other places.
But where is
There
Lord
is
Shiva then?
bro.
Where is Lord Shiva
Lord
then?
Shiva has multiple dwellings. Lord Shiva, as you know, he has Kailash, but the Kailash is like how there is Vrindavan in the earthly planet, there is Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Similarly, Lord Shiva has one Kailash in the earthly planet, There is one Kailash which is there. That's what we see in the fourth canto when the Daksha is killed. Brahmaji takes all the demigods to meet Lord Shiva. You remember that section, right?
Hmm.
So
I heard.
that,
I don't remember details properly.
so there, when Brahmaji is taking all the demigods, he is taking to the place where Lord Shiva is staying. That Kailash is in the heavenly planets because
Oh,
extra creates a particular. He's the worshipable. Lord Shiva is worshipable for the extras, so they create a place. So that is around that Mandakini Ganga only. They go and visit Lord Shiva. He's sitting under a banyan tree, very peaceful, meditating. So that is all the description. That's a heavenly planet, but it is
okay.
also Kailash. So there is manifestation of Kailash in multiple places. It's just one.
Okay. So second question was, we hear this 8,400,000,
Okay.
and then Jalaja, Navalakshani, it's all mentioned.
Yes.
Then these demigods, aren't they one of the 400,000 human species itself? Because
When,
what else species can they be?
yeah, means that's what I'm saying. When the different classification, the focus is different. So in that classification, everybody could be considered human beings also. But here the idea is mostly based on the downward nourishment or horizontal nourishment or passion, and also in different planets that they are living, depending on that. So it's different way of looking at it.
Okay, Prabhu. Even demigods is downward nourishment, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
I saw two hands raised. I don't know who it is. If you want to ask.
Well, since nobody's talking, I'll go first. I'm in
Okay.
happiness. Yeah, so when you were saying, you remember when you were describing the horizontal species from the downward, like birds, right? They're active all day long, looking for food, you know, doing this and that. But human beings also, they're active all day long. But you said that the animals are considered in the mode of ignorance, whereas the humans are considered to be in the mode of passion. So since both types are very active, how do you distinguish who is in ignorance, who is in passion?
It's your question would be is like both animals as well as human beings are very active, and it's a sign of passion that they are active. So then why the animals are considered predominantly in the mode of ignorance and human beings are considered predominantly in the mode of passion?
Yes.
So my answer would be like this is a generic classification, and also you can see that's why it is said there is no concept of future deliberation. Even though their activities are there, but there is nothing like they're considering about the future. They're just active based on eating and sleeping at this point of time for this present day. But passion also has more intelligence activated, and
Mm-hmm.
also their activities are based on instinct. That is only, you say, even among animals, cows are considered in mode of goodness, monkeys are considered mode of passion, so buffaloes are considered mode of ignorance. So it is just a very generic way of putting it, but when you enter the particular aspect, then there is going to be more and more details. So in human beings, not everybody is predominantly in mode of passion. You can choose to transcend the modes, what to speak of being in the mode of goodness. So it is just a generic classification that ignorance is based on their inability to for self realization. It's not that they tomorrow when they realize they can become self realized, but human beings have that ability, so that is why they are a little higher mode.
So, I mean, this is a little bit fuzzy for me, how to classify, the different species according to passion, goodness, ignorance. For example, like the cows, right? Why would they be considered more in the mode of goodness than Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why not ignorance for the cows?
They are predominantly in ignorance. However, among the animals, they have more goodness than other animals.
Oh. And the reason why we say that is what?
The reason is you have to live with them to realize that.
Oh.
If you deal with if you do deal with all the three, if you deal with a monkey, if you deal with a cow, and if you deal with a dog, you will know what is the difference. Like if
Uh-huh.
you have to live with to see how they affect your consciousness.
Okay. Well, monkeys, yeah, I can understand them. Okay, and one last thing is, under immovable jivas, can we put stones and mountains?
Yeah, some of the stones are considered as living entities. It's a bewildering thing for me also personally. But what I have heard is the Ahalya became a stone, or the mountains had wings in the past and it was cut by King Indra. So they have life, but I'm to be very honest, it's very bewildering for me to reconcile that. I have never asked anybody about that doubt. I can ask maybe someone like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
Uh-huh.
But yes, they can be considered as living entities, but
Yeah,
not always. So there is some speciality there, some detail is there.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I can stop at this point of time. There is only one last slide. So basically, I was about to say, I also put out the questions. The demigods, why the separate section is given the demigods here, the separate category is, even though they are also downward nourishment, or they may also be in a little bit in passion and like that. The thing is, some of the demigods are created in Prakrita, and some of the demigods come under Vaikrita. That means some of the devatas were created as part of the primary creation by Mahavishnu, and some of the devatas are created by Brahma. That is why there is like a mix of the category. So there is some primary demigods, they appear to pray before even Brahmaji comes. So those sense devatas are coming under Prakrita, and these sense devatas are Vaikrita. And creation of Brahma is, four Kumaras is also mixed, because after everything is created, Brahmaji was saying, "Oh my God, what kind of a creation am I doing?" So he feels like he just for his own composure he starts meditating on the Supreme Lord. So from his meditation come four Kumaras. However, they are considered mixed, Prakrita and Vaikrita, because the meditation on the Lord, the Supreme Lord, facilitated that creation, and Brahma also was involved. So that is why it is called as Prakrita and Vaikrita. And this is just a detail for the 27th verse. And after explaining all this until the 29th verse, Maitreya is saying, how now I spoke about how Brahmaji is creating from his own body and mind. Now that he has created everybody, those created beings create further. So let me speak about that. That is called as Nitya Srishti, one type of secondary creation. So that's why he's saying in the last verse, I shall now describe the other aspects of secondary creation, how the Manvantaras and the descendants of the Manu create. So it starts from there and then it goes to Swayambhu Manu, and then Devahuti, Akuti, Prasuti, Uttanapad, and Priyavrat. Like that, Manu's descendants will be described from this third canto end towards 4, 5, like that. It will go on until some chapters of the canto. So the secondary creation is going to continue. How all these different Manus created. Manu created 3 daughters and 2 sons, and they created more sons. Like that, it will go on. So we will see that. Before that, in the next chapter, 11th chapter, Maitreya is going to take a detour to answer Vidura's question about time. Because Vidura asked about time, he only spoke for 2-3 verses because he didn't want to interrupt his line of thought about the primary and secondary creation. So now he described what did Brahmaji create from his body and mind. So now he will describe what the descendants of Brahma created. That will be coming beginning in the chapter 12. Before that, Brahmaji Maitreya will speak about time factor to Vidura in chapter 11, which we will see next week. So thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare
Jai
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna. Thank you
Hare
all for
Krishna.
joining today.
Thank you
Let's
very
see
much, Prabhu. Hare
next week.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.